Dan Bardell is here. Dan, let's get straight to it. I saw your tweets on social media and you were very unhappy about it being a red card. I'm guessing you thought it was a yellow or maybe a blue in this new blue card talk. Banker red, have you changed your mind? Because I think it's an obvious red. Have you seen one angle that's made you think it's a yellow because every other angle suggests it's a red?
I've still not seen a definitive angle where I look at it and would say that's a definite red card. I think the location of where the challenge took place hasn't helped.
What do you mean, right
in front of the dugout? But the Spurs bench all jumps up. The subs are getting involved. Madison's in the ref's ear as well, telling him or advising him on what to do. Was it that dissimilar to Edison on Darwin on the game after? Was it that dissimilar?
Edison was at least trying. In Edison's head, he thought he could get that ball. Darwin was just a lot quicker. Let's be honest. I wish we could open up McGinn's head and examine what he thought. He thought, you know what? I need to smash someone.
Oh, he's lost his cool for sure.
Yeah, the red mist went and there was no ball. Like you know those tackles in the 90s where they try and take the ball and man, and it's naughty, but it's a yellow because it's ball and man. This was just man.
He's missed the ball. I can't try and claim.
I didn't even see the ball in the photo. You know them old things where it says spot the ball. Remember the old little magazines? Where's the ball? I didn't even see the ball.
But what part of McGinn's leg did you think connected with the Tottenham player? Where's
part of McGinn's leg? His whole body.
No, but
I thought his whole body connected. He went right through him.
It's the Brighton tackle, for example, that wasn't a red card as well. It was a yellow card on a game on Sunday against Forest. That was studs. That's a little bit high above the ankle.
That should have been a red as well.
Yeah, so
I thought that should have been a red.
McGinn didn't stud anyone. It kind of felt like his calf hit against the Spurs
weird,
player.
But the difference between the Brighton one, so Brighton Forest, if you guys haven't seen it, obviously Nuno Espirito Santo very upset about that. It's almost the speed as to the way McGinn hits him. The Brighton one was almost a kind of a slower follow through.
Yeah.
McGinn hit him. It felt like anyway about 100 miles. Obviously it wasn't that, but it felt like he really hit him at some force. And obviously he got up Adobe and then went straight back down again, didn't he? Which didn't help as well.
Nah.
But if he bounced back up the way he did and stayed up, it's a yellow card. For him to go back down again, the ref's only got one option.
I just think McGinn's gone full tilt into him. I'm not saying it's not a forceful challenge because it isn't. The reason that would probably be given for the red card is excessive force.
Yes.
The thing that annoys me is if that tackle happened next week in a different game, I don't think it's a guaranteed red. And also, I think
red.
Do you think
Dan,
if the referee booked him in that game, do you think VAR would have overturned that and said, "Oh, actually, you've got that wrong. It's a red card"?
That's a good question.
Or got him to look at the screen? Because I don't think they would have done.
That's a good question. No,
and that happens frequently. Yeah. That kind of thing, where if someone's already been booked, the initial decision now seems to be the decision VAR aren't going to come in and argue.
You've obviously
with
watched it back on TV, and you've obviously seen the part where Ezri Konsa's behind him, telling him to like calm down.
Yeah, I didn't like that very much from.
Yeah, that was interesting, wasn't it? Which would suggest Ezri knows he's lost his head there as well.
I think because John McGinn, that's something that he does quite frequently on the pitch. The fingers to the head, telling people to concentrate.
Is that why
it's something
done that?
It's something McGinn does quite a lot.
Listen to your own advice, mate.
Konsa made a mistake in the game as well, didn't he, for the second goal? Yeah. So I can imagine McGinn perhaps said something. That's his speculation on my behalf. McGinn perhaps said something to Konsa, but it kind of just compounded it, really, didn't it? Because the horse has bolted. He's already been sent off. It's no good telling him to calm it after it's happened.
What is it? 2 game or 1 game?
3.
Jeez.
Yeah, so that's the biggest blow that we've now not got him for 3 games, and West Ham away on Sunday, then Wolves in a derby the week after, which he'd have been an important player for, and then Man City away is the 3rd game. So, big games at a time when Villa do feel pretty stretched.
Yeah. Were you surprised by, obviously, the first half was null and void. You can almost discount the first 45 minutes. I think everyone's forgot it from the memory bank. The second half, you think, okay, this is when Villa are going to come out. They're going to show what they've got. They're at home. Ollie Watkins has had a fantastic season. Again, everyone's been really, really good. And you're thinking, okay, this is it now, go for it. And all of a sudden, it's Spurs that come on the front foot. You were in the ground. How surprised were you that Spurs were on the front foot and not you?
I think we baffled ourselves almost in the formation that we set up with. So Villa have been very defined in what they've done under Unai Emery. It's always been 4-4-2 off the ball. We tried something completely different on Sunday for whatever reason, and I think if Unai Emery could have his time again, I don't think
too much respect to Spurs.
I don't think he'd pick that formation and that game plan again, and I'm surprised that on a week when we've had Europe as well, that's the time that he's changed system for the first time ever since he's been there. Look, I'm in no position to judge Unai Emery. He knows a hell of a lot more about football than I do, and I would say that's the first time the whole time he's been there I've walked out the ground and thought that he got it wrong, which isn't bad really, is it, for a manager that's been in the job 18 months. I'm not criticising him at all, but I did think our game plan was a little bit strange, but he'll obviously have his reasons for why he did that.
Yeah, and I guess Unai Emery will be scratching his head as to why the star players didn't turn up as well. You look at the way Maddison and Son in particular, especially in the second half, it felt like Son had the ball all the time, and you kind of throw to your key star players, and your player of the season so far is Ollie Watkins, and he just didn't see him.
I think he took a knock early on in the game, It
must have been very early, because I didn't see him from the first 10 minutes.
That vague penalty shout that wasn't a penalty, I think he picked up a knock from there, because after that he never felt like he could move properly, and Bailey was the same. I didn't feel like he was moving in the usual fashion.
Tiredness?
Obviously they've played on Thursday, haven't they? Yeah. They've travelled, but perhaps, and that's probably the first time for a long time Tottenham have had their best team out. They had good options on the bench to bring on as well, and freshen themselves up. Porro had just come back, who I think is absolutely massive for Tottenham.
Probably the best right back in the league, at the moment.
I think
go through the teams, and normally you immediately go Trent, you think Kyle Walker, but I think Porro's been fantastic.
I think from an attacking perspective, I think he's not too dissimilar to Trent in what the influence he has on his team. His passing range is very, very good. He's switched on, he's quick, he gets up and down, he plays that inverted role really well as well. I think he's arguably Tottenham's most important player, Pedro Porro. I think he's that good. He's been absolutely brilliant all season, and he'd be in my 11.
And when would you ever say that about a defensive player for Spurs?
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, under Conte, he didn't look great, did he?
No.
People were questioning him, but I think he's probably been Spurs' player of the season. So it's kind of the perfect storm, really. We played the worst that we've played under Emery, and Tottenham probably played the best that they've played under Postecoglou. I mean, we were 2-0 down, went down to 10 men. They did score 2 goals in stoppage time when the game's already gone. So I do think 4-0 flatters them slightly, but they were better than us. I can't deny that they deserve to win.
Has there been a concern at the start of the year? You've had 3 or 4 big teams go to Villa Park, which, by the way, was a fortress in 2023. But obviously Chelsea go there in the Cup and do you. United, who shouldn't have done you, because I think you played better than them, but the result says they done you. And now Spurs as well. You were winning these big games in 2023 to start the season. Now all of a sudden, the big teams are turning up and you're losing.
Yeah, we weren't keeping clean sheets in the first half of the season, but it was always only conceding 1 goal, and you can always rely on Villa to score. And I said earlier, that's the first time since October 2022 Villa haven't scored in a home Premier League game. I think the defence has become a bit disjointed because we've had to have a different back 4 every game. It's obviously a back 5 on this occasion, but if you're conceding 2+ goals every single game, which we are at the moment, you're giving yourself a mountain to climb, aren't you?
When you look at the Spurs team, I mean, obviously, look, I'm going to ask you a tough question here because you're in 4th now. Do you think you're looking at a team that is a Champions League team? Like whether or not it's your space, which it can only really be because they're not going to take Arsenal, Man City or Liverpool. Do you look at this team and think this is a team that will be in the Champions League next season or can be?
Well, I think both can still be in the Champions League depending on how the coefficients work. I wouldn't look at either side and say they're built ready for Champions League now. Obviously, qualifying would be huge for both clubs. Tottenham have been in and around the Champions League over the last 10 or so years.
What do you think Spurs need? When you say that, then what do you think? You look at that 11. I mean, I look at it, I think it's fantastic. I think Van de Ven's almost Van Dijk-like at the back when he controls everything.
He is brilliant. Got
injury problems. Obviously, hamstrings are an issue for him, but he looks fantastic. The midfield is solid. Up front, maybe they're still looking at that number 9. I still don't trust Richarlison. They look good, though.
Yeah, maybe just depth for Spurs, but I think a striker, look, you can't lose someone like Harry Kane, and he will need replacing at some point. But what they've done well this season, Spurs, is I think they've got 4 players possibly in double figures for goals now, which is really, really important. They've shared the goals round, and they've got players to bring on and change the game in those attacking positions. Kulusevski's a brilliant player. Son's having a good season. Brennan Johnson's got good numbers in recent months. They've added Werner into the mix, who can cover multiple positions as well. I'm sure I'm missing someone there, aren't I? Richarlison. Richarlison as well. So Spurs, that's maybe the difference between Spurs and Villa at the moment. They've got more to freshen up their attack than Villa have at the moment. Villa have lost. Spurs have had their injuries. I'm not saying they haven't. Villa are getting theirs now, and every week a different players missing. You know, they need to start getting some players back. Jacob Ramsey we could do with coming back. He's been missing pretty much all season. But the loss of McGinn for 3 games when you've already got Boubacar Kamara out, that's huge for Villa.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.